This is What's Wild in New Hampshire by wildlife biologist Eric Orff. Here it is. Yesterday I was over in Newmarket at the McAllen Dam with fishing game staff, several staffers, Mike Dion and Kara and Robert. So quite a crew over there. But we stumbled upon the elevator. You know, before I left the Region 3 office in Durham in 2007, they were working on the elevator, and I have been wondering about that ever since. What was the elevator? How did it work? Well, yesterday we stumbled onto that. Thank you, Robert, for guiding us through the elevator and telling us about eels. So eels have always been a fascinating animal to me, and I thought I would round out the eel talk that we started yesterday with a story. You know, I have hundreds, if not thousands, of articles I have written over the years about New Hampshire's fish and wildlife and the environment and species. Well, I wrote a story about eels some time ago. Here it is. Let me read it to you. I hope you'll enjoy it. I sure enjoyed writing it, and when I read it and think back about these times, I do get chuckling. So the title of the story is The Slippery, Slimy, Scary American Eel. Eels are one of the most intriguing animals I know. They are one of the best creatures to scare a girl with. I learned that over 4 decades ago. For a youngster, going eel fishing was as good as you could get. No matter how you look at it, eel fishing was always an adventure. Fortunately, some things, irrespective of time, just don't change. So whether you're 13 going on 14 or 48 going on 14, eel fishing can bring the best out of the boy in you. I have got a good number of eeling adventures over my nearly 5 decades of existence. So I wrote this in my 40s. Let me share some of them with you. So I wrote this over 30 years ago or around then. My first recollection of eel fishing was when I was 6 years old and lived in northern Maine in the county, a rustic county that is. At dusk, an old trapper would settle in along the banks of the Presteel Stream in Easton, not a quarter mile from where I lived. I soon learned that he welcomed my stares, and a couple of nights later, he let me bring my own fishing pole down for some eeling. He even baited my hook with a special bait so I could help him fill his bucket with eels. He claimed that eels made the best mink bait going. So the late summer evenings were spent gathering bait for his winter trap line. Later in my early teen years, I would fish off the end of a boat dock at our camp in Maine. Eel fishing can be a moment devoid of a sense of time, a twilight zone. I like to catch a few perch in the afternoon and have them all cut up and ready for the arrival of darkness. A late summer's night was still the perfect time to fish. The cool nights nearly always brought a coating of fog to the water that lapped at my legs as they dangled from the dock. The bullfrog's call resonated in the stillness of the tranquil darkness, interrupting the gentle hiss of the Coleman lantern. The sudden splash of a frog or fish that shattered the stillness sent ripples at me through the fog from the unseen event. When you are eel fishing, this invariably sends another ripple, a ripple of goosebumps that emanate from the standing hair on the back of your neck, which then resonates as a prickly feeling on the back of your legs. Oh, yes, eel fishing connects you to the earth like no other fishing. One day, while bass fishing with my Uncle Dick Orff on this same lake, I found a hand line laying in the bottom of the old wooden boat as we lay at anchor off Turtle Island. A small yellow perch was quickly added to the end of the line and tossed overboard. A few minutes later, a steady tug on the line meant something was going to happen. Sure enough, during the middle of the day, I yanked in the biggest eel I ever caught. It was 3 feet long and weighed 4.5 pounds. At the same time, my uncle was standing, make that dancing, on his seat as the eel slithered beneath it. The eel measured 3 feet long and weighed 4.5 pounds. It was a trophy for sure. So that eel was probably 50 years old. I'm sorry I kept that fish. Sometimes you can get plain lucky with eels. About 1979, when I was a student at UNH, my lifelong fishing partner was home on leave from the Navy, home from Vietnam. Rick Hamlet had just returned from a tour of duty on a destroyer along the coast of Vietnam. We made up for his long absence from fishing by not wasting a minute of time, day or night. This particular night found us checking out a pond near Durham called the Bellamy Reservoir, which has a reputation for its bass. To our amazement, we found the face of the dam creating the pond covered with juvenile eels shimmying up the near vertical surface to the pond above. We knew we had struck gold. No bass could possibly resist these 3 or 4 inch long delicacies. So, using a shirt for a net, we scooped up a bucketful. Back to my apartment in Exeter, we went to get fishing gear. We soon realized we had too many eels to keep alive, so I carefully transferred the extras into my 10-gallon aquarium that was sitting in my living room in my apartment. They turned it into a black writhing mass. It did. It was something to see. We carefully and quietly gathered the necessary fishing gear so as not to waken my wife and headed back to the pond. When my young bride, less than a year into our marriage, woke up and got ready to walk to work nearby, she was somewhat startled by the cauldron of eels I had left in our living room. She was even more startled by their absence in the aquarium when she returned for lunch 4 hours later. What luck! They had all crawled out. Our lovely apartment had been transformed into a scene from an Alfred Hitchcock movie. They slithered everywhere. They did. They were in the bedroom 3 rooms away. Did I mention that girls are scared of eels? They are. Luckily, a neighbor came to the rescue and collected many of them, so some had made it through our kitchen all the way to the bedroom. Eels are amazing survivors. So am I. Yes, I did. So if you're looking for a little adventure this summer, maybe you should consider a nice, tranquil evening of eel fishing. But don't keep them because they're going to live 30 to 50 years before they migrate out to sea. So don't keep them. It won't stay tranquil for long once you hook an eel. Be sure to carefully release your eels, or better yet, cut the line as close to the mouth as possible. Releasing an eel is an investment in your future, a time you are 13 again. That's my eel story. I do like eels. Awesome eels yesterday, and reminded me of that story that I wrote over 30 years ago. This is wildlife biologist Eric Orb for What's Wild in New Hampshire.